Hi, Year 9, and welcome to the last lesson of the week in English. Today we're going to be actually reading the poem London by William Blake. So if you remember yesterday, I set you the task of watching that video clip about William Blake, which kind of revealed the things that he was interested in, the things that he really hated about London and life in the 1800s. So this poem today is a kind of realization of all that unpleasant feeling that he had about the city of London. If you've forgotten anything about how he felt about London, please whiz back or just do a quick recap on yesterday's lesson. Just have a look at it again. You should be fine today. There's just maybe one question I'm going to ask you, which is a kind of context and background question. Let's get moving forward. So this is part two of the William Blake pair of lessons, and the objectives are to use the knowledge from William Blake's background and context. So use that knowledge from yesterday to use that in answering at least one of the questions. You might find that you've got opportunities to talk about William Blake's background and his context in other questions as well. So wherever you can, mention his kind of feelings about London from the documentary yesterday. I'm going to read a William Blake poem. Then you're going to show understanding of poetic language and show understanding of poetic structure. And as usual, I will talk you through what you need to do for some of those questions as we get through them, as we get close to them. So we're going to read the poem next, and then we shall look at the questions. Okay, so here's the poem, London by William Blake. I'm going to read it to you now, guys. So if you pay attention, follow the words with me, and try and just let the words just try and paint pictures in your mind as we go through it. I wander through each charted street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every... Okay, so as you can see, you've got the poem on one side of the page and you've got the questions in the grey box on the other. And what I'll do in a moment is we'll go through these questions one by one, making sure that it's really clear what I'm asking you to do and give you some pointers where to find the answers. So first of all, number one, what is the speaker in the poem doing in the first line? So, well, let's look at that first line. I wander through each chartered street. So, what does that mean? What is the speaker doing? Question two. Can you see a link in the first line with a famous William Wordsworth poem? What is Blake's purpose by using this reference? Now, this is a really tricky question. You're going to have to either search through your memory banks to find this reference. If you've studied any of William Wordsworth poetry before this term, you might know the poem I'm talking about. If you're not certain, I'm going to point your attention to the first two words. Okay? So you might be able to think, or you might be able to search on the internet, a poem that starts with the same two words by William Wordsworth. Okay? The second part of question two is, what is Blake's purpose by using this reference? By using this particular kind of reference or echo from William Wordsworth poem, what is Blake doing with that? Why is, of all the poems, of all the kind of references he could make, why has he chosen that particular one? If you don't worry, if you can leave this one blank if you're not sure, but it's just a really interesting question to ponder for those of you who've noticed it. Moving on to question three. What is the difference in meaning of the word chartered in lines 1 and 2? So you can see the word chartered there and the word chartered there. Okay. Tricky, because this is quite an old-fashioned word, but if I give you a clue or two, so in the first one for street, what would be if you had a chart of the streets in London? Imagine a piece of paper, a chart with all the streets of London on it, each and every street. What would that be called? That piece of paper? It wouldn't be called a chart, but it's that idea. And then the second use of the word chartered doesn't mean the same at all. So this one is to do the idea of kind of, if you get a charter, it means you kind of have a license. Okay, so you might need to think about, what's that suggest about the Thames, if it's got a license being applied to it. Okay, tricky. Question 3 is tricky. Okay, so don't worry if you find that one a bit confusing or challenging. Moving on to question 4. What is the difference in the meaning of the word mark in lines 3 and 4? Well, it says mark in line 3, it says marks in line 4, so it's basically the same word. But I suppose the difference is, like, if I said mark my words, or I'm going to mark your books, what does that mean? As opposed to, oh, I've got a mark on my new trousers, okay, or I've got a mark on the sofa. Yeah, so the word, same word but different meanings. Work out which one in line 3 and line 4, which one's got which meaning. The word every is used 5 times. Okay, that's just in this stanza, just in stanza 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's used once more in stanza 3. So the word envy is used 5 times in stanza 2. What is this language feature called, and what is the effect on the reader? So basically, what's it called when something's used more than once? I think you know what that one is. But what's the effect? What's the effect of repeating this particular word, every? Okay, what's that do in terms of the effect on the reader? Okay. And finally on the slide, number 6, what do you think Blake means by mind-forged manacles? Okay, so there's 3 words in this little phrase, mind-forged manacles. You might need to look up some of these words. I think we can probably work that one out. Forged, that might be something you need to look up in a dictionary. And manacles, that also might be something you need to look up in a dictionary. We don't normally find manacles away from this poem in the mind, but in this particular case, Blake has put the manacles in the mind. So try and work out what Blake means by that particular phrase. Now, as always, if you've got to this point and you think, oh, I've been too fast, pause the video, go back and look at the questions again. But if you're ready to move forward, you can move forward. So question number 7. Why did chimney sweepers get a mention in this poem? And there it is. The chimney sweepers get mentioned, first line of stanza 3. Now this is where your knowledge from yesterday's documentary comes in very handy. So think about what you learned yesterday about Blake and answer question 7. Question 8. Some of the lines in this poem are shorter than the others. Okay, not much shorter, only slightly shorter. If you just have a scan through the lines on this particular page, if you count them with me, how the chimney sweepers cry, that's 7. Every blackening church appalls, 7. And the hapless soldier's sigh, 7. Runs in blood down palace walls, 7. Every line in stanza 3 has got 7. But if you look at stanza 4, but most through midnight streets I hear, that's 8. Now, if you were to go back and look at the lines in stanza 1 and stanza 2, they also are pretty much all 8 beats in a line. It's stanza 3 that's the odd one out. So the question I'm asking is, what is the effect of having these particular lines have that kind of missing beat? What happens with that missing beat? When you read those lines and you feel like there's almost like a missed an extra silent count? What is the effect of having that extra count um, compared to the lines that are slightly longer that kind of flow into the next line? These shorter lines have this kind of silence at the end of them. What's the effect of that, do you think? 9, I think straightforward. What is the rhyme pattern? So straight away, just work your way through. It's the same in each stanza. Each stanza is identical in terms of rhyme, so you can just use the ones on this page to find the answer there. And 10, you know, I like to ask questions where you interpret what the rhyme pattern is showing. So here I'm asking you, how is the rhyme emphasizing the idea that London is not a good place? So when you look at the rhyme pattern and you think, well, yeah, I've got that spot on, it's no problem. Then think, well, why has Blake used that particular rhyming style to communicate London is not good? Okay, so put your thinking caps on there, guys, and have a really good ponder about question 10. And finally, kind of a bonus question, this one. The final stanza, the climax of the poem, what we've been building up to, the final stanza reveals the worst aspect of human suffering in London. What is it? So have a look at that last stanza all by itself, and what is the worst thing in London regarding the suffering of the people that live there? Okay, right, so that is the end of this lesson. Obviously, pause, rewind, watch again the questions so you get everything sorted. Have a lovely weekend, and on Monday we'll go through like a review video of this week's lessons. So we'll get the answers and any clarification that you might need on Monday. All right, guys, take care, look after yourselves, be good at home, and stay safe.